The divorce lawyer's office smells like leather and disappointment. I'm staring at a stack of papers that says my marriage is worth exactly half of everything we built together, minus the dignity I threw away chasing 20-year-old memories of who I used to be. My phone keeps lighting up with messages from my kids asking when I'm coming home, but home isn't mine anymore. Home is where my husband lives with our 3 children, while I rent a 1-bedroom apartment that smells like the previous tenant's cats. 6 months ago, I had everything a woman my age was supposed to want. Beautiful house in Portland with the perfect kitchen island for homework supervision. 3 kids who still hugged me goodnight. A husband who coached Little League and fixed things without being asked. Wine nights with the other moms, complaining about our perfect problems. I was living the dream, they said, and I was suffocating in it. The affair started with a Facebook message from someone I barely remembered, Jake Morrison from college. "Hey stranger, you popped up in my suggested friends. Still gorgeous as ever I see." 20 years, a mortgage, and 3 kids later. And suddenly I was gorgeous again. Not Mom, not Honey, not Mrs. Patterson, just Melissa, gorgeous as ever. I should have ignored it. Should have shown it to my husband Tom, like a responsible 42-year-old mother of 3. Instead, I spent the next hour scrolling through Jake's profile. Divorced. Personal trainer now. Those abs in his beach photos weren't photoshopped. And when he messaged asking if I wanted to catch up over coffee, I said yes. Just coffee, I told myself. What's the harm in coffee with an old friend? Tom and I had been together since we were 25, met at a friend's barbecue where he spilled sauce on my sundress and spent the whole night apologizing. He was finishing his accounting degree, I was working at a marketing firm, and we fell into each other like it was meant to be. Got married 3 years later in his parents' backyard, had our first kid 2 years after that. 17 years of marriage, 17 years of the same man, the same house, the same routine. Wake up, make breakfast, get kids ready, drive to school, grocery shop, laundry, pick up kids, help with homework, make dinner, clean up, collapse into bed. Repeat, repeat, repeat until you forget you ever wanted anything else. Don't get me wrong, Tom was a good husband, great even. He worked hard at his firm, came home every night, played with the kids. Never forgot anniversaries or birthdays. Still brought me flowers every Friday, just like he had since we were dating. Made love to me twice a week with the same gentle consideration he'd shown since our wedding night. He was everything a husband should be. But somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being a person and became a role. The wife, the mother, the household manager, the permission slip signer, the appointment maker, the keeper of everyone else's schedules and dreams, while mine got buried under piles of laundry and school projects. I used to be fun. That's what I remembered most about my 20s. I was the girl who danced on tables, who kissed strangers at parties, who said yes to last-minute road trips. I had a rotating cast of men who wanted me, really wanted me, not just because I was conveniently located in the same bed every night. I was desired. I was chased. I was alive. Now I was a 42-year-old woman whose biggest thrill was finding organic strawberries on sale at Whole Foods. The coffee with Jake was supposed to scratch an itch, just to remember what it felt like to have someone look at me like I was more than a mom in yoga pants. We met at a Starbucks downtown while the kids were at school. I told myself it was harmless, old friends catching up. He stood when I walked in, and the way his eyes traveled over me made me feel 22 again. "Melissa, wow, you look exactly the same." I laughed because it was such a lie. 3 kids and 17 years showed in every line on my face, every pound that wouldn't budge, every gray hair I dyed away. But he said it like he meant it, and I was desperate enough to believe him. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about his divorce, how his ex-wife never appreciated him, never made him feel wanted. I found myself nodding, saying things like, "I know exactly what you mean." And it's like you become invisible. By the time we hugged goodbye, I'd already agreed to meet him again the next week. Tom didn't notice anything different when I got home, just asked how my day was while scrolling through his phone, same as always. The kids needed rides to practice, help with projects, signatures on forms. Life continued its predictable march, except now I had a secret that made me feel electric. The texts started that night. Jake saying how great it was to see me, how I deserved to be appreciated, how my husband was lucky to have me. Each message was like a hit of something I'd been craving without knowing it. Validation, attention. Proof that I was still the kind of woman men noticed. My friend group would have been horrified if they knew. We were the wine moms, the PTA committee, the ones who organized bake sales and judged other women who looked too long at the soccer coach. We'd built our identities around being good wives and mothers, but during our wine nights after enough Chardonnay, the cracks showed. Sometimes I fantasize about just getting in the car and driving away, Sarah confessed one night, just to see how long it would take them to notice I was gone. I miss being touched like I matter, Lisa added, then quickly clarified. I mean, Brad's great, but it's different after kids. We all nodded and poured more wine and went home to our great husbands and beautiful children and empty places inside us that used to hold dreams. The second coffee with Jake turned into lunch. Lunch turned into him showing me his apartment. Just to see the view, he said. The city looked different from his bedroom window. And when he kissed me, I kissed back like I was drowning and he was air. I drove home in a daze, equal parts guilt and exhilaration. Tom had made dinner, helped the kids with homework, had a glass of wine waiting for me. Long day? He asked, kissing my cheek. The same cheek Jake had held in his hands 2 hours earlier. Just errands, I lied, the words sliding out easier than they should have. The affair became my part-time job. Strategic planning around school schedules and Tom's work calendar. New lingerie hidden in the back of my drawer. A gym membership I never used but provided cover for afternoon disappearances. Lies stacked on lies until I couldn't remember what was real anymore. I became an expert at deception. Tuesday afternoons were Pilates class. Thursdays were coffee with my sister. I bought workout clothes I never sweated in, protein bars I never ate, a yoga mat that never left my car. I'd spray myself with that gym-scented body spray before coming home, mess up my hair just enough to look post-workout. The performance of the good wife, the self-care, gym-going, balanced woman, while actually being the worst kind of liar. The money was another problem. Hotels cost cash. New lingerie wasn't cheap. The actual gym membership I maintained as cover story. Lunches at places Tom and I could never afford on our budget. I started skimming from the grocery money, buying generic brands and pocketing the difference, returning things for cash that I'd bought on credit. 20 here, 40 there. I justified it by telling myself I deserved something for myself after years of pouring everything into everyone else. Jake made me feel 22 again, but I wasn't 22. I was 42 with stretch marks and responsibilities and a family who needed me. But for a few hours a week, I could pretend. He'd tell me I was beautiful, sexy, irresistible, everything my husband had stopped saying years ago, probably because he'd said it so many times it lost meaning. The close calls started piling up. Once, my daughter Emma got sick at school while I was at Jake's. The nurse called 3 times before trying Tom at work. I raced to school with my shirt inside out, hair still messed up, praying nobody would notice. The nurse gave me a look that said she knew exactly where I'd been. Another time, Tom came home early and found me frantically deleting texts in the bathroom. "Everything okay?" he asked through the door. "Just girl stuff," I called back, hating myself for how easily the lies came. The worst part was how Tom never suspected anything. 17 years of trust built up like armor. He'd look at me sometimes with such love, such certainty that I was his good wife, the mother of his children, his partner in everything. And I'd look back knowing I'd spent the afternoon in another man's bed. My teenage daughter Katie started noticing things first. "You seem different lately," she said one morning while I was humming in the kitchen. "Like happier, but also weird." "Just trying to take better care of myself," I said, which wasn't entirely a lie. "Is that why you're always at the gym but never sweaty?" she asked, and the look in her 15-year-old eyes was too knowing. "The gym has showers, Katie." "Right, and that's why your gym bag never has dirty clothes in it?" I turned away, busying myself with packing lunches. "Since when do you go through my gym bag?" "Since you started acting sketchy and using way more data on your phone and getting texts that make you smile like an idiot." My brilliant daughter. Too smart for her own good. Or mine. "Mom," she said, and something in her voice made me stop. "Are you okay? Like really okay? Because you're acting like Bethany's mom did before." Before what? Before she left Bethany's dad for her CrossFit instructor. The parallel was too close. I forced a laugh. "I'm not leaving anyone, Katie. Everything's fine." She didn't look convinced, but she grabbed her backpack and left for school. I stood in my perfect kitchen with its marble countertops and custom cabinets and felt the walls closing in. The wine moms noticed too. "You're glowing," Sarah said at our monthly gathering. "Did you get work done?" "Just a new moisturizer," I lied. "Must be some moisturizer," Lisa muttered. And they all exchanged glances that told me I wasn't as subtle as I thought. But I couldn't stop. Jake was my escape hatch from a life that felt like it was slowly suffocating me. Every soccer game where I sat with the other moms discussing snack rotations and teacher appreciation gifts. Every dinner where the kids complained about the food I'd spent an hour making. Every night where Tom fell asleep watching TV while I lay beside him feeling invisible. Jake was proof that I was still alive under all that domestic armor. It wasn't just the sex, though that was part of it. Sex with someone who didn't know exactly what you liked, who you had to teach and discover with. Sex that wasn't scheduled around kids' bedtimes and early meetings. Sex where I could be someone other than Mom. It was the way he looked at me. Like I was a prize, not a given. Like he couldn't believe he got to touch me. Not like he'd been touching me for 17 years and knew every inch by heart. He didn't see the woman who nagged about leaving socks on the floor. He saw Melissa from college. Fun Melissa, sexy Melissa. Melissa who existed outside of carpool lanes and grocery lists. "Leave him," Jake would say after particularly intense afternoons. "We could be together, really together." But I knew better. Jake didn't want the real me any more than I wanted the real him. He wanted the fantasy version who showed up in matching lingerie, not the one who'd have opinions about his spending habits or get annoyed when he left dishes in the sink. We were playing roles for each other, and it only worked because we could walk away after. Still, I started fantasizing about it. What if I did leave, started over? I could be one of those women who found themselves after divorce, travel, take up painting, have adventures. The kids were old enough they'd understand eventually. Tom would be fine. He was a catch. Some other woman would appreciate him the way I couldn't anymore. The fantasy started to feel more real than my actual life. I'd sit at school events imagining myself somewhere else, anywhere else. Not discussing fundraising goals or volunteer schedules, but living, really living. The end came the way these things always do. Stupid, preventable, and utterly devastating. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was supposed to be at my fake gym class. Jake and I were at his apartment, lost in each other, when my phone started exploding with texts. I ignored them. Whatever fire needed putting out could wait an hour. Except this time it couldn't. My son Michael had been in an accident at baseball practice. Not serious, but he was at the hospital getting x-rays and asking for me. Tom was in meetings. The school couldn't reach me. Katie had to leave her AP chemistry test to handle it because her mother was too busy screwing around to answer her phone. I'll never forget the 17 missed calls, the increasingly frantic texts. "Mom, where are you? Mom, please answer. Mom, Michael's hurt. Mom, please." And finally, from Katie, "I know where you are, Dad will too." I threw on my clothes while Jake asked what was wrong. I couldn't even look at him. Just grabbed my things and ran, leaving him half-dressed, confused, and irrelevant. The drive to the hospital was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Every red light felt like judgment. Every mile was another minute my baby had needed me and I wasn't there. By the time I got to the hospital, Tom was there. Michael was fine, a sprained wrist, nothing serious. But the look on Tom's face when I rushed in, breathless and obviously not from the gym, told me everything was about to unravel. "Where were you?" he asked quietly while Michael was with the doctor. "I told you, gym class. Katie called the gym. They said you haven't set foot in the place in 3 months. The lie died in my throat. Katie stood behind her father, arms crossed, looking at me with disgust that only a teenage daughter can muster. "Mom's been lying about a lot of things," she said. "Check her credit card. All those gym charges, they're from some apartment building downtown. Same address every time. Want to know whose name is on the lease?" My brilliant, observant daughter had played detective and found everything. "Katie," I started. "Jake Morrison," she continued, her voice cold. "Personal trainer, recently divorced. Has a type, apparently. Bored married women. Found his Instagram. You're not even the only one he's doing this with." The ground shifted under my feet. "What?" Katie pulled out her phone, showed me Jake's profile. There in his tagged photos were at least 3 other women. Different days, same apartment, same grateful, glowing expressions I probably wore. "You destroyed our family for some player who collects desperate housewives?" Her voice cracked, teenage fury mixing with genuine hurt. "God, Mom, at least if you were going to ruin everything, couldn't you have picked someone who actually cared about you?" Tom didn't say another word at the hospital. We drove home in separate cars. I spent the ride trying to think of explanations, excuses, anything that would make this less than what it was. But when I walked into our house and saw him sitting at our kitchen table with printed credit card statements and phone records spread out like evidence, I knew it was over. "How long?" was all he asked. 4 months, I whispered. He nodded like he'd expected it. "Who?" "Someone from college. It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." We sat at that table where we'd shared 17 years of meals and homework and birthday celebrations, and I watched our marriage die in real time. Tom didn't yell, didn't throw things, just asked quiet questions that cut deeper than any screaming match could have. "Did you ever love me? Or was I just the safe choice?" "Of course I loved you." "I still love you." "You have a funny way of showing it." The kids were the worst part. Michael, only 12, just looked confused. Emma, our middle child at 14, cried and asked if it was her fault. But Katie, my bright, angry 15-year-old, she understood exactly what I'd done. "You're pathetic," she told me that night. "Dad gave you everything and you threw it away for what? Some loser who texts you compliments? I'm embarrassed you're my mother." Tom moved into the guest room that night. The next morning, he was gone before the kids woke up. A note said he needed space to think and would be staying with his brother. I was left to face my children alone, to see the damage I'd caused reflected in their eyes. Jake texted asking why I hadn't responded to his messages. I blocked his number. The fantasy was over, and in the harsh light of my family's pain, he was just a middle-aged personal trainer who'd helped me destroy everything that actually mattered. The wine moms found out within days. Portland might be a city, but our suburban cul-de-sac was microscopic. Sarah called, not to offer support, but to inform me I was no longer welcome at wine nights. "We have to think about what message it sends," she said, like adultery was contagious. Tom filed for divorce 2 weeks later. His lawyer's papers were polite and factual. Irreconcilable differences. Joint custody suggested. The house to be sold and proceeds split. 17 years reduced to bullet points, legal fees, and asset division. I tried to fight it at first, suggested counseling, begged for another chance, promised to do better, be better, appreciate what I had, but Tom was done in a way that told me he'd never really be able to look at me the same way again. The trust was broken, and we both knew, you can't rebuild with splinters. The kids chose to stay with Tom when given the option. Even Michael, my baby, said he wanted to stay in the house with Dad. Katie was heading to college soon anyway, she said, and it would be easier from the family home. The family home I was no longer part of. The day I moved out was the worst. Tom had taken the kids to his parents' house so I could pack without an audience. But Katie came back, said she forgot something. She found me in her room, holding the Mother's Day card she'd made me when she was 7. World's Best Mom, in purple crayon. That didn't age well, she said from the doorway. I put the card back on her bulletin board. I'm sorry, Katie, I'm so sorry. Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? Both, everything. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it, Mom. That's what you don't get. Dad's never going to trust anyone again. Emma cries herself to sleep. Michael thinks it's his fault because he got hurt and that's how you got caught. And me? She laughed, but it was bitter. I get to spend my senior year as the girl whose mom cheated with some gym rat who was banging half of Portland. Katie, did you even think about us? When you were sneaking around lying, did you once think about what would happen to us? The truth was worse than a lie. Not enough, not the way I should have. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. Dad's dating Ms. Henderson from school, the art teacher. She's 34, pretty. Actually goes to the gym. He says it's not serious, but Emma likes her. She helped her with her science fair project last week. Each word was carefully chosen to wound. My daughter had learned from the best, after all. I'd taught her how to be cruel when I showed her a mother could betray her family for afternoon attention. So here I sit, in this lawyer's office that smells like endings, signing papers that make it official. I'm about to be a 43-year-old divorcee with joint custody I'll be lucky to enforce. Starting over in a beige apartment that allows cats I don't have, with half the money and none of the life I spent 17 years building. My phone buzzes. A text from Katie. Emma has a recital Thursday. Dad says you can come if you promise not to make it weird. If I promise not to make it weird, like I'm the unstable ex who might cause a scene at a middle school orchestra concert, which I guess I am now. I text back, I'll be there. Tell her I love her. Katie doesn't respond. These days she rarely does. The lawyer asks if I need more time to review the papers. I shake my head and sign my name, officially ending the marriage I threw away for afternoon validation from a man whose last name I'd had to check on Facebook. Outside the lawyer's office, Portland is living its normal Tuesday life. People with intact families and clear consciences going about their day. I sit in my car for a long time, engine off, watching normal life happen around me. My phone rings. It's my mother, who's been calling daily since Tom told her what happened. I let it go to voicemail, knowing it'll be another lecture about throwing away a good man, ruining my children's lives, embarrassing the family. All true, all deserved, all too late to matter. I think about Jake sometimes. Wonder if he found another bored housewife to tell she's beautiful. He probably doesn't think about me at all. I was just another conquest, another woman willing to risk everything for a few hours of feeling special. The worst part is I knew that even then. I just didn't care. Tom is already dating someone, according to Katie's bitter texts. A teacher at the kids' school. Age appropriate. Loves children. She's boring, but at least she won't cheat on him, Katie wrote, twisting the knife with teenage precision. I want to tell her that I was boring once too, that 15 years of being the perfect wife and mother had squeezed all the interesting parts out of me until I didn't recognize myself anymore. But she wouldn't understand, couldn't understand. And maybe that's the point. Maybe you're not supposed to stay interesting. Maybe you're supposed to evolve into something steadier, something that puts your children's needs before your own emptiness. Or maybe some women are just better at being satisfied with what they have, better at not needing to be desired by strangers to feel alive, better at finding meaning in soccer games and science fairs instead of secret apartments and stolen afternoons. I drive to my empty apartment and pour a glass of wine I'll drink alone, No lipstick on the rim but mine. No more wine moms. No more suburban sisterhood. Just me and my choices and the silence of a life I torched for the borrowed heat of who I used to be. The worst part? If Jake texted right now, if he showed up at my door with those eyes that made me feel like someone worth wanting, I'm not sure I wouldn't do it all over again. Because that's who I am. The woman who had everything and destroyed it, chasing a feeling that was never going to last. The woman who forgot that being someone's wife and mother was supposed to be enough. The woman drinking wine alone in a cat-scented apartment while her family eats dinner without her, and no one even notices the chair she used to fill.